Hi guys, it is Claire and today we are going to be unpacking our baggage together, so please stick around. She's serving Gothic Grandma. Hi friends, it is Claire and this is my channel, Woodshed Theory. Here I talk about what it is like to be an adult on the autism spectrum and whatever else feels good to me. So if that sounds good to you, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss my videos. I am 1/3 of the way to 1,000 subscribers, which is my goal. So if you do subscribe, thank you very much. I really, really, really appreciate it. Oh, did I mention I put out videos 3 times a week? So today we are sticking with the theme of my channel and we're keeping things light and entertaining. We're going to talk about dealing with the trauma of late autism diagnosis. Side note, have you noticed that most people on the spectrum have a dark, twisted sense of humor? I think that probably has something to do with dealing with the residual depression. Anyway, let me know what you think. This has been something that has been on my mind to discuss on this channel because it is something that I deal with quite often, and I know a lot of other people who have undergone a late diagnosis or have found out later in life about their diagnosis struggle with the same thing. I'm attempting to be a little less scripted in this video, but that can be difficult for me trying to communicate my thoughts and feelings, so just please give me a little grace. As a late diagnosed autistic person, I'd like to say that I don't get stuck thinking about my undiagnosed life and the implications of being undiagnosed for most of my life had on my life. There are 30 years of experiences that I've been trying to work through over the past year and a half, 2 years, since I found out that I was autistic. I want to be authentic and honest with y'all and tell you that some days I'm just not handling it okay. And I know that that's not uncommon for somebody with a late diagnosis. You know, there are days where I just stare at the wall and dissociate about it. It's a lot to process. There are some days where I'm just going about my day and I take a deep breath and tears well up in my eyes. It's a lot. I'm sure there are more eloquent ways of saying it. I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom or portray a bad image of autism. I'm not trying to say that I'm ashamed to be autistic. I'm not trying to say that being on the spectrum is a terrible thing. For me, finding out that I'm on the spectrum and working through that has been the most rewarding and helpful thing that has ever happened to me personally. Not trying to make it a negative thing. The negative part actually comes from when I was diagnosed. Now, because I wasn't diagnosed as a child, I can't say, oh, it would have been different. Had I been diagnosed as a child, I would not feel this way. I can't say that because I have not lived that. So if you have lived that and have some insight, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But as somebody who was diagnosed in their early 30s, there's just 30 years of memories and experiences that you need to unpack. And a lot of them aren't good. I really struggled as an autistic youth to fit in, to communicate, to make sense of the world. I was constantly being overstimulated and having breakdowns, acting out, desperately trying to fit in, but saying the wrong thing or saying a rude thing. being included or excluded because of the way that I was, depending on the situation. You know, you just kind of grow up feeling like an outcast, a pariah, the black sheep in the family. Not that I don't come from a loving family or that I think that they were trying to make me feel that way. I felt that way because I didn't know who I was and I didn't understand the biggest part of myself, and that was that I was on the spectrum. And when you find out that you're on the spectrum, it is like seeing yourself in focus for the first time and finally understanding why you are the way that you are and why things have happened in the way that they've happened. But then there is maybe a part that you wouldn't think about, and that is, how do you work through the trauma of a life of living with a brain that's different from other people's brains and not knowing about it? I dealt with this kind of when I started getting help for my OCD as well, because I was really, really, really sick for most of my life. Was very impaired by living with obsessive compulsive disorder, and nobody knew, and I didn't get help. And once you get help and you start having some relief in your symptoms, it's hard not to think about how bad things were and how you didn't know how bad things were. And what could my life have looked like had I known and had I gotten help sooner? I feel the same way about the autism diagnosis. In life, everything that you do in life, every action, every decision pushes you in a different direction, towards a different outcome, right? Your life is a choose your own adventure book, and the decisions that you make give you a different result. And it's sometimes difficult for me to look back on my life and process exactly where my life has come to and the decisions that I made as an undiagnosed autistic person. Am I saying the decisions are good or bad? Not necessarily. I mean, do I have regrets in life? You know, that's hard to say, because I do love and appreciate my life right now. But there were decisions that I made in life and actions and responses to things, reactions to things, that came about purely as a result of me being an undiagnosed autistic person. There were weights that I held inside of myself, being an undiagnosed person, constantly thinking like, okay, what do I do? It's me. Well, it was me, but it wasn't my fault. I'm just different. And working through those sometimes painful memories of decisions I made because of my lack of insight into myself. It hurts. And that's kind of why I didn't want this to be as much of a scripted video. Because I'm still dealing with it. And I know a lot of my fellow late diagnosis autistics are dealing with it too. There's no way of knowing how my life would have turned out had I not been in the situation that I was in. But I don't know, just not knowing that I was on the spectrum and looking back at all of the social faux pas and all of the anxiety and all of the decisions made from that anxiety and all of, the loneliness from not having a lot of friends, or not being able to, not that I didn't have friends, not being able to experience friendships in a neurotypical way and experience people in a neurotypical way and get the same kind of feelings out of that, and not to understand that. Learning differently than other people, being very creative, but not fitting in because of the way I was presenting myself as a person, or I don't know, it's hard to explain. But I just wanted to talk about it because it's there. The trauma of not knowing is something I'm carrying with me. And it has gotten easier to carry. But it's still something that I think about. I know that maybe it's, maybe I'm being too generic, too general. But I want to help people with my channel, through my channel. And I know that it's something that if I'm going through it, then other people must be going through it as well. So yeah, I'd love to know if you are a late diagnosed autistic person, do you still think about your undiagnosed life? Do you think about how it might have been different? Do you think about some of the decisions that you made as an undiagnosed person, or some of the ways that you reacted, or some of the ways that you acted, and you look back and you maybe don't agree with them anymore, or think that maybe in light of knowing you're on the spectrum, would you have made a different decision now? Now, I understand that if you're watching this video, you might say, it's important not to live in the past. It's important to focus on the present. And, we talk about that in therapy all the time, living in the now. I get it. And I'm absolutely trying to do that. But there are just moments that it just smacks me across the face. There's like a mourning period, like a hollow emptiness to it. And I don't want to make it seem like my life has been terrible or that I haven't had wonderful experiences. And I love where my life has turned out, and I'm very grateful. So I don't want it to seem like that. I just want to let people know that it's not abnormal to feel this way, to have that feeling of loss of opportunity. But then there's also a feeling of what I have wanted to know. In general, yes. But it's also hard to say. Everything would have turned out so differently had I had known. Maybe I would not have pursued my education the way I did, or not sure. I mean, there's just no way of knowing. I guess I find solace in knowing that I can be a different person now, and that the things that maybe I didn't like about myself or struggled with prior to diagnosis, I can change those things now that I'm aware of them. And I can look at that as a positive. If you were diagnosed as a young person and have known about your diagnosis since you were young, I'd love to know if you feel fulfilled in that, or did it not make any difference at all? I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm fine. I'm not gonna, there's nothing to worry about. It's just something that weighs heavily on me sometimes, and just working through. That's everything I wanted to talk to you guys about today. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, etc., please. And I hope that you have a wonderful Monday, and hopefully we will be talking on Wednesday. Bye.